Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin today's story, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Dr. Alara Vance had always believed in the structural integrity of things. 41, a partner at a prestigious architecture firm in Chicago, she thought in terms of load-bearing walls, foundational strength, and the elegant distribution of stress. Her marriage to Maya, she believed, was her finest design. 8 years of meticulous construction, built on what she thought was a bedrock of shared dreams and mutual respect, housed within the lovingly restored brownstone they owned in Lincoln Park. They had what people strived for: 2 successful careers, a vibrant social life, and a deep, comfortable intimacy that felt as reliable as the steel beams supporting the skyscrapers Alara helped bring to life. Until that Tuesday night in October, when a single whispered sentence revealed the entire structure was a facade, riddled with rot and ready to collapse at the slightest touch. The whisper came after they'd made love, in that quiet, vulnerable space between sleep and wakefulness, when the city lights painted soft patterns on their bedroom ceiling. Alara felt a profound sense of peace, a contentment that settled deep in her bones, the kind of quiet joy she had mistaken for permanence. The shift had been gradual, almost imperceptible at first, like hairline fractures forming in concrete. Maya, a dynamic marketing executive, had become increasingly attached to her phone, its screen angled away with a practiced subtlety that Alara's mind registered but refused to process. There were more late nights at the office, explained away by a demanding new campaign for a luxury brand. There was the emergence of a new vocabulary, peppered with terms like personal authenticity, emotional bandwidth, and the need to hold space for her own growth. Concepts that seemed to arrive fully formed from a self-help seminar Alara hadn't known she'd attended. Maya had also started talking incessantly about a brilliant new junior strategist on her team, a woman named Chloe, whose disruptive energy and fearless creativity were apparently revolutionizing the entire agency. Alara, ever the supportive spouse, had listened patiently, nodding along as Maya described Chloe's bold ideas and edgy fashion sense, never once imagining that this protégé was a wrecking ball aimed directly at the foundation of her life. She'd rationalized it all as the byproduct of pressure. Maya was ambitious, and her field was notoriously cutthroat. Of course she was stressed. Of course she was distracted. Alara's response was to try harder. She cooked Maya's favorite meals, drew her baths, and suggested a weekend getaway to their favorite spot in Door County, an offer that was met with a vague, non-committal smile and the excuse of an impending deadline. She told herself this was just a season, a difficult passage they would navigate together, because that's what you did when you built a life with someone. You weathered the storms, reinforced the weak points, and trusted in the original blueprint. That Tuesday night, curled against Maya's back, Alara had traced the line of her wife's spine, feeling the familiar warmth of her skin. "I love you," Alara had murmured into the quiet, the words as natural to her as breathing. There was a pause, a stillness that lasted a fraction of a second too long, before Maya shifted. She didn't turn around. Instead, she let out a long, slow sigh, a sound freighted with a weariness that felt ancient and profound. Then came the whisper, so quiet Alara almost thought she'd imagined it, a ghost of a sound meant more for the universe than for her ears. "This love feels like a mistake. I wish I could walk away." The words didn't shatter the silence. They poisoned it. They hung in the air between them, a toxic vapor. For a moment, Alara's entire world tilted on its axis. Every architectural principle she understood screamed that this was the moment of catastrophic failure. The support beam had just confessed it was made of sand. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. The expected script, the one she'd seen in movies and read in books, called for tears, for questions, for pleading. "What do you mean? Don't you love me anymore? We can fix this." But the architect in her, the part that saw the compromised structure for what it was, took over. She saw the lie not in the whispered words, but in the performance of them. This wasn't a cry for help. It was a trial balloon, A carefully curated confession designed to test the waters, to reframe a betrayal as a tragic, unavoidable emotional state. It was an attempt to make Alara a co-conspirator in the demolition of their marriage. And in that frozen moment, a cold, crystalline clarity descended upon her. She would not beg for the preservation of a ruin. The next morning, Alara awoke before the alarm. The space beside her was empty. The faint sound of the shower running came from the ensuite bathroom. She lay perfectly still, staring at the ceiling, replaying the whispered words. They hadn't been a dream. A strange calm had settled over her, the eerie quiet that follows a devastating explosion. There was no grief yet, only a chilling sense of purpose. She slipped out of bed and walked not to the bathroom to confront Maya, but to the living room. On the charging stand by the sofa was the family iPad, its screen dark. It was synced to Maya's phone, a convenience they had set up years ago for sharing calendars and shopping lists. Alara had never felt the need to look at it before. Trust had been her default setting. Now, it felt like an evidence locker waiting to be opened. Her hands didn't even tremble as she picked it up and unlocked it with their shared passcode. The message app was the first icon on the screen. She tapped it. The most recent thread was with a contact named Chloe. Her finger hovered for a second before pressing down. And there it was. Not just a flirtation, but a fully documented parallel life. Months of it. Hundreds of messages, a sprawling blueprint of deceit. There were photos of them at a wine bar Alara had wanted to try, their heads close together, smiling with a giddy intimacy that made Alara's stomach clench. There were logistical texts about clandestine meetings, coded references to strategy sessions that were clearly hotel stays. But the worst were the conversations about her. Is just so predictable, one of Maya's texts read. She thinks a well-organized spice rack is the pinnacle of a thrilling life. Another one, from Chloe. How can you stand it? You're a force of nature. You deserve a life that's as vibrant as you are. And the final, gutting exchange from just last week, a conversation about the future. I can't keep living this lie, babe, Maya had written. I just need to find the right way to tell her. I don't want to destroy her, but I need to be free, so that's what last night's whisper was. The first step in Maya's carefully managed exit strategy. It wasn't a confession. It was a product launch. Alara methodically took screenshots of everything, the texts, the photos, the hotel confirmations she found in Maya's email. She screenshotted the Venmo transactions to Chloe labeled with inside jokes. She documented it all with the cold precision of a forensic accountant, airdropping the mountain of evidence to her own devices before deleting the screenshots from the iPad and placing it back on its charger, exactly as she had found it. She walked into the kitchen and started the coffee maker, the familiar whirring sound a strange counterpoint to the silent demolition of her world. The smell of dark roast filled the air. She moved with an economy of motion, taking down 2 mugs from the cupboard, pouring milk into a small pitcher. She was on autopilot, her body performing the comforting rituals of a morning that was anything but normal. When Maya emerged from the bedroom, wrapped in a plush white robe, her dark hair damp and combed back, she looked surprised to see Alara already up. "Morning," Maya said, her voice bright, a little too bright. She leaned in for a kiss, but Alara turned her head slightly so the kiss landed on her cheek. Maya frowned, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone laced with a manufactured concern that now sounded like nails on a chalkboard to Alara. Alara didn't answer immediately. She finished pouring the coffee, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She placed one mug on the marble island in front of Maya and kept the other for herself. Then she looked up, her gaze level and unwavering. "Last night," she began, her voice calm, devoid of the hysteria Maya was likely expecting. "You said you wished you could walk away." Maya's face paled. She opened her mouth to speak, a denial or a clarification already forming on her lips. Alara held up a hand to stop her. "So I'm letting you," she continued, her voice as cool and hard as the countertop. "I've packed you an overnight bag. It's by the door. You can go to Chloe's." She slid the iPad across the island, the screen awake and open to the message thread. The finality in her tone was absolute. Maya stared at the iPad, then at Alara, her carefully constructed composure shattering like cheap glass. The color drained from her face, leaving a sickly, grayish pallor. "Alara, wait," she stammered, her hand fluttering towards the device as if she could physically erase the words on the screen. "It's not what you think. I can explain. Can you?" Alara asked, her voice dangerously quiet. She took a slow sip of her coffee, her eyes never leaving Maya's crumbling facade. "Because I think it's exactly what I think. I think this has been going on for at least 6 months. I think it started with your protégé at work. I think you've been lying to me every single day, while sleeping in my bed, eating the food I cooked, and telling me you loved me." Maya's eyes filled with tears, the predictable, reflexive tears of someone who has been caught. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It was just an escape. I felt so trapped, so suffocated. You're always so focused on your work, on your projects. It's like you live in a world of blueprints and floor plans, and I needed something more. Something real." The blame shifting was so textbook it was almost insulting. Alara felt a surge of contempt so pure it burned away any lingering trace of sorrow. "Something real," she repeated, a humorless smile touching her lips. "You call sneaking around with your subordinate, lying about work trips, and mocking me in text messages real? Don't you dare try to pin your sordid little affair on me. Don't you dare use therapy speak to justify your cowardice. This wasn't a cry for help, Maya. This was a conspiracy. You and Chloe, planning your vibrant future while you figured out the best way to manage my demolition." Maya flinched as if struck. "It meant nothing," she insisted, the desperation escalating. "Chloe meant nothing. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. Please, Alara. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We built a life together. Don't throw it all away." Alara set her mug down with a soft click. "We didn't build a life, Maya. I built a life. I designed it, I maintained it, and I believed in it. You were just a tenant who decided to set fire to the building because you were bored. The difference between a mistake and a choice is intent. You made thousands of choices. Every lie, every secret meeting, every text message was a choice. And last night, you made another one. You decided to begin your exit. You just didn't expect me to hold the door open for you." She picked up her phone from the counter. "My lawyer has already been contacted. She'll be filing the papers this morning. I want you out of this house today. Your things will be put in storage. You can have your lawyer contact mine to arrange picking them up." The fight drained out of Maya completely, replaced by a raw, primal panic. The weeping started then, not the delicate, self-pitying tears from before, but ugly, wrenching sobs of genuine terror. This wasn't part of her plan. In her script, there was a dramatic confrontation, weeks of tearful therapy sessions, and a slow, painful uncoupling where she got to play the tragic figure, torn between two loves. She never imagined this surgical, immediate amputation. "No," she choked out, reaching across the island for Alara's hand. "No, please, you can't do this. Alara, I love you. I swear I do. It was stupid. I was stupid. Don't do this." Alara pulled her hand back, her expression unyielding. "The person you loved was the idea of me, the stable, predictable foundation that allowed you to go out and play with dynamite. But you miscalculated. You thought the foundation was weak. It isn't. It's just done supporting you." She gestured toward the front door with her chin. "Your bag is packed. Chloe is expecting you, I assume. I suggest you go before this gets any more undignified." With that, Alara turned her back on her weeping wife, walked into her home office, and closed the door, the sound of the latch clicking into place as definitive as a gavel strike. The consequences cascaded with brutal efficiency. By noon, Maya had collected her bag and left, leaving behind only the faint scent of her perfume and 8 years of shared memories that now felt like fiction. Alara's lawyer, a shark named Jessica whom Alara had hired for her firm's corporate work, had the divorce papers filed before the end of the business day. The petition cited adultery, and attached was a meticulously organized PDF of the evidence Alara had gathered. There would be no negotiation about the house. An hour later, An anonymous email, sent from a Proton account via a VPN, landed in the inbox of the head of human resources at Maya's company. It detailed a serious breach of company policy regarding relationships between a manager and a direct subordinate, complete with a few choice, anonymized screenshots that proved an inappropriate and long-term affair. Within 24 hours, both Maya and Chloe were suspended pending a formal investigation. The professional fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Chloe, seeing her career ambitions about to be incinerated, did what cowards do. She immediately turned on Maya, painting herself as a young, impressionable employee manipulated by a predatory superior. She provided HR with every damning email and message, saving her own skin at the expense of her supposed great love. Maya was fired for gross misconduct. Chloe was given a severe reprimand and transferred to a different department, her reputation in tatters. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal correspondence and quiet, determined rebuilding. Alara had the locks changed. She systematically went through the house, packing every trace of Maya into boxes, clothes, books, photographs. It was a painful but necessary exorcism. Her best friend, Sarah, came over with wine and takeout, sitting with her in the evenings as Alara navigated the waves of grief that would occasionally, unexpectedly, crash over her. But overwhelming the grief was a profound, unshakable sense of rightness. She had not fought for a lie. She had not demeaned herself by begging someone to love her. She had respected herself enough to walk away from the wreckage without a backward glance. Maya's attempts at contact were relentless at first, a barrage of texts, voicemails, and emails cycling through desperate apologies, angry accusations, and pathetic pleas. Alara read none of them. She created a separate folder for her lawyer and blocked Maya's number. She refused to engage. The silence was her answer. The divorce was finalized in under 6 months. The evidence was so overwhelming that Maya's lawyer advised her to accept the initial settlement offer. Alara kept the house and the majority of their shared assets. Maya, unemployed and disgraced, walked away with little more than her personal savings and a reputation that would follow her throughout the industry. 1 year later, Alara stood on the observation deck of the newly completed River North Tower she had helped design. It was the night of the building's grand opening, a glittering affair with champagne and city dignitaries. The skyscraper soared into the Chicago night, a testament to vision, strength, and integrity. Her project, which had been a lifeline during the darkest days, was now a triumph. She looked out at the sprawling tapestry of city lights, feeling a sense of peace that was deeper and more authentic than any she had ever known with Maya. It was a peace born not of comfort, but of strength. She had faced the ultimate betrayal and had not only survived but thrived. Sarah found her by the window, handing her a fresh glass of champagne. "You see that?" Sarah said, nodding towards the magnificent structure. "You built that. While your whole world was falling apart, you built something beautiful and strong." A mutual acquaintance from their old social circle approached them later, her expression a mixture of sympathy and gossip. "Have you heard about Maya?" she asked in a low voice. Alara just shook her head, genuinely uninterested, but the woman continued anyway. "Lost her job. Couldn't find anything in marketing here. I heard she's living in a tiny apartment out in Naperville, doing freelance social media work for dentists. And Chloe transferred to her company's Denver office 6 months ago. Just vanished." Alara felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, not even a flicker of schadenfreude. It was simply the logical outcome, the natural consequence of a flawed design. Maya had wanted a life that was vibrant and free of mistakes. Instead, she had engineered her own collapse, weeping not for the love she'd lost, but for the comfortable life she had so carelessly thrown away. And for the shock of discovering her safety net had not only been removed, but had never truly been hers to begin with. Alara turned back to the window, watching the endless stream of headlights on Lake Shore Drive. She had learned the hardest lesson of her life: some structures are not meant to be saved. Sometimes, the most loving, most respectful act is to acknowledge the foundational flaw, walk away, and build something new, something honest, on solid ground. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.